got Porzingis, you got Holiday, you got Derek White, you got literally, I would say what? 5 guys can get you 20 points in a game?
I know people will say it's, only one guy. I don't believe that, Coach, that, one guy, those days are over, in my opinion. Like, a Bill Russell, a Wilt Chamberlain.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
You're going a little deep bomb hunting here. We don't care that we have the one heavy favorite with Rory, a couple other guys like Fleetwood and Tagala, etc. You're going to go a little deeper down the board.
This course, I think, is going to play a little bit more to the wedges. They have, what they did is they've renovated it to basically block off some of the bombing alleys for these guys. They've narrowed the fairways.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Garrett Cole's getting ready to come back too. I guess look, they've played great without him, but you're not going to say to Garrett Cole, look, don't come back. I mean, it's a ridiculous conversation to have.
They're not going to take any unnecessary chances. And look, they're at the point where they have a lead. They certainly are going to make the playoffs, I would say, barring some sort of complete collapse. And that's all it takes.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
8 playoff games at home for Boston in Beantown. They are 6-2 straight up.
The wild card, I would say, in this game is not necessarily, well, what are we going to get out of Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, Brown, and certainly Tatum. It is Kristaps Porzingis to me, because we're not getting back a player that's like, hey, rotational guy. Like, remember when Derek Lively went down with the injury? He was playing well, but a young player, like a piece.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
And welcome in, a very happy Wednesday to you. It is Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network, the 20th of November already, and we've got plenty going on for you here as Week 13 of the college football season underway. We got more Maction football here tonight we'll talk about in just a few, not to mention a lot of NBA basketball as well as college basketballs. We've got multiple of these tournaments that you may recall, things like the Charleston Classic, the Myrtle Beach Invitational, and, of course, the Bahamas Championship, all of that starting tomorrow. But we do have plenty of games on tap as well, but this will be the last hurrah of those individual tournaments and competitions, if you will, mixing and matching from around different conferences around the country. We've got games like West Virginia, in fact, at home, taking on the Iona Gales in this one here tonight. Entirely too many points, if you ask me. But this did open up at a much higher price, I believe. Right around 15 is what Iona was getting, and then slowly but surely all day long, they have been getting money, and I agree with it here as the Mountaineers are still trying to figure things out under Darren DeVries, their new head coach, as well as a brand new roster. Don't forget, there was a lot of dysfunction happening at West Virginia with its basketball team dating back a couple of seasons. They bring in Darren DeVries there. He brings his son over along with Javon Small. Tucker DeVries is, of course, his son there. And that's your offense for West Virginia, which is going to take them a little while to figure out exactly how to incorporate everybody else on this team. Iona, well, they come in pretty much the same thing. They've got a pretty much an entirely new roster as well here tonight. But the one thing I'll tell you that really lent me towards Iona was their ability to own the glass. And that is exactly what they do. They thoroughly have dominated the glass here in a couple of games now against some pretty quality competition that they've been going up against. And the one thing that West Virginia has shown they can't do is attack the offensive glass, and they have shown themselves vulnerable to rebounds to teams like Robert Morris and UMass on the defensive end. So as long as the Gales continue to go ahead and dominate both the offensive and defensive glass, that means not a whole lot of second chance opportunities for West Virginia, which means I think Iona going to be able to keep this thing closer than some would like. The game I'm really looking forward to here tonight is a game that we talked about last week, or a team we told you last week was one of our best bets here on the SportsGrid Network, and that is Cal Poly. They're going to be taking on Arizona State, a top 25 team, and Arizona State, by the way, has been really good hitting the threes, and we know this. They've actually rattled off wins against very good competition, and they hung with the Zags for 40 minutes here, giving them a little bit of a run for their money. They have an experienced roster, and they've got a lot of veterans of college basketball. However, they are kind of live by the three, die by the three, and they're taking on a Cal Poly team, the Mustangs, that we told you last week. Pretty good team here. New head coach comes out of Division II. He recruited just about every shooter there was in D2 to come to Cal Poly, and they've become very efficient, especially on the road, hitting 56% of their shots on the road. They're 2-1 against the number. They also very good, top 10 in the country at the free throw line. When you put all of that together, I don't know, call me crazy. That's a team that should be able to keep it within a pretty big number. So I am looking forward to seeing that game. Of course, that's going to be a little bit later tonight. You've got a whole bunch of other games getting ready to go under as well, including USC tonight. I thought that was an interesting game, taking on San Jose State. And let's face it, USC looks like a hot mess. Doesn't look good. They barely got by Idaho State and UT Arlington before they just lost to Cal at home, 71-66. But the good news for them, USC, this is a get-right spot against San Jose State, who I don't believe has beaten a Division I opponent yet this season. So I do think that this could be the game for USC in which they dominate not only the paint, but just about every aspect of San Jose State and get themselves going in the right direction. So certainly looking forward to seeing if USC can finally put it together. And if we're being honest, I think they will. Dayton taking on New Mexico State is another one. They're laying 15.5 in this one. Of course, everyone loves the Dayton Flyers here. We also have a couple of Penn State taking on Purdue Fort Wayne tonight, laying a pretty big number at 16.5, but that has been bet up considerably as the money continues to pour in for Penn State. And then, of course, you've got a couple of other interesting games late. Northern Colorado taking on Cal Baptist. This is one that I am looking forward to as well, because I did take a little bit of a flyer here on Northern Colorado to keep this thing a little bit closer, 5.5 or 6. It looks like the number was. Northern Colorado certainly has enough firepower here, and they've played the tougher schedule. They're 0-2 straight up on the road, but they have played much tougher teams than what Cal Baptist has done. Cal Baptist, another one of these teams that shoots 80% from the free throw line at home. They do have certainly a home court advantage here, but they have struggled on defense. They've allowed every team they've played to score at least 77 points or more in their first 4 games. And I like Northern Colorado. I love the fact that they've taken on Washington State and South Dakota State and Colorado, and they've gone toe-to-toe with all those teams. So I do think there is some value here with Northern Colorado as they get ready to take on Cal Baptist here tonight. The Lancers for a little late-night action. And, of course, UCLA also in action here tonight, taking on Idaho State, who has actually been pretty darn good so far this year. And another one of these mid-major programs that's not ducking anybody. They're taking on just about everybody that they've had come through their gym and traveling. You got to collect those checks if you are a mid-major. But they barely lost to Cal State Fullerton last game, but they've taken on San Diego. They've taken on USC, Arizona State. So they have certainly run the gamut. But UCLA looking to get this right here this year from Mick Cronin. They should have no problem going ahead and dispatching Idaho State here tonight. So plenty of college basketball on tap here tonight. Plenty of NBA action as well, as it's the night after the first loss for the Cleveland Cavaliers. They are back home, though. Will they take it out on the New Orleans Pelicans? One will have to see. We're going to talk a lot of NBA. We're going to talk Week 12 of the NFL season. Much more coming up here as Game Time Decisions continue on the grid.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts, so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I am ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people. What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from, just because many people...
All right, welcome back. Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. A very happy Wednesday to you. Joe Raineri, joined by our good friend Mark Zinno here, getting ready on a nice night in the NBA. Some interesting games, a lot of these back-to-backs for teams here. Zin, a night after the NBA Cup games that we had last night. Pretty cool-looking floors there, but the big story was the Cleveland Cavaliers no longer undefeated. They lose by 3 to the Celtics last night, but certainly gave it the good old college try, but now they're back home tonight. They get to take on a New Orleans Pelicans team that we talked about last night and said they ain't scoring 100 points. Let's be realistic against Dallas. Didn't see Dallas scoring 132 points, but it just goes to show that both these teams on this second night of a back-to-back, are we laying the 14 with the Cavaliers tonight?
I mean, the real question is, how do the Cavaliers get up off the deck after they lose their first game of the season? A very, intense game, close game. Cleveland fought their way back into it, only to come up short, and Cleveland covered the number on the way out the door, but that was a little bit of frustration as that thing ballooned way up towards 6 and 7 by the time tip-off had. My 5.5 didn't cash last night. So regardless of that, I don't want to play on Cleveland because it's an ideal spot for them to have a flat night on the second night of a back-to-back after losing that game. But, Joe, when I say that the Pelicans may be the only team that I would not bet in this spot, the Pelicans may be the only team that I would bet the Sixers here. I would bet like the Spurs here. Like, pick a bad team. I would bet the Wizards here just because at least they run. There's nothing redeeming about the Pelicans right now. And in particular, they're a horrible shooting team. And I don't know that that's going to get any better in one night. And it doesn't matter whether it's a back-to-back. They're just not a good shooting team. And so the idea that I want to try to get involved here with a team that shoots this poorly, even though you should never lay a 2-touchdown spread in the NBA, period. Like, just don't ever do it. Like, it's a recipe for disaster. So I can't back Cleveland. Be a passer. I mean, all you can honestly do is think to take the under, right? If Cleveland comes out and has a great defensive effort after last night, giving 60-some-odd points, almost 70 points in the first half, take a first half under here. Hope that, New Orleans continues to miss shots. Cleveland's a little slow offensively, right? They're dragging a little bit, but their defense is on alert. So that's the way I would play this. But I just can't get involved with the Pelicans. They don't shoot well enough at all.
No, they're absolutely awful here, and they're hurt. They've got basically nobody playing for them right now. But the Cavs could get right in a hurry tonight and wash the stink of that loss last night off. Another game that's interesting, too, is the Bulls seem to be getting a little bit of love here. They are, 8.5 points? The Bulls were almost a 10-point dog when they played the Bucks earlier this year, and they blew them out 1-11. So what am I missing here?
In a game that was 133-122, like, I don't know that – I know Dame Lillard is back, but the Bucks are considerably worse defensively with Dame Lillard on the floor. And that doesn't make me feel better about a team in Chicago that all of a sudden plays with a ton of pace, right? Like when last year the Bulls were in bottom 5 in pace. This year they're number 2. So, what does that tell you? Their offense is shooting really well. I think they are top 6 or 7 in shooting percentage and effective field goal percentage this year. So, look, a lot of things have gone well for the Bulls offensively. When did we get to a world where the Bucks are laying 8.5 again? Like, this is not the Bucks team 2 years ago that should be laying these kind of numbers. They're a bad defensive squad. So when I saw this number, and I'm like, even though when these two teams played, and it was really only at the end of October, a month ago, they were favored by 9, the Bucks were, and again, they're still favored by that same number. Nah, something's up with that. Give me the Bulls and the points.
Yeah, they're 3-6-1 as a favorite here this year. The Bucks. I don't get it at all. Interesting number with Houston too, taking on Indiana. They are at home in this one here. The total I thought was interesting. Will we get enough defense in here to look at an under, or are we just focusing on Indiana? It's Indiana. Chances are we're going to get some points here, but Houston's defense is no joke at home.
No, and that's the thing. And Joe, I attack this. I'll cut this in half and lay the points with Houston in the first half. If I get under 4, where it's 2 possessions, particularly you're not going to get under 3, I don't think. But still, if you have a 3.5 in the first half, that's the way I'd go. Because here's the logic, right? Houston's defense has been much better at home. If the Pacers' offense clicks, and they're out there scoring, and they are pushing the pace early and being effective, guess what? The Rockets may be dead for the entire game. I don't think that they can keep up with Indiana from a pace and scoring standpoint. But I do think there's a game script where Houston plays lockdown D in the first half and is ahead by 5 or 6 at half, and then Indiana over the course of 4 quarters claws their way back into it. I would look at it that way. But again, Houston's offense still a little suspect, right? I mean, this is still a team that's bottom 5 in effective field goal percentage. You talk about their offensive efficiency, it's not great either. Bottom half of the league. So they don't bring a lot on offense. And some of that is their numbers away from Houston. Obviously, on both ends of the floor, they're better at home. But I would look at this first half here late with Houston, because if they ain't controlling the pace early, then I don't think they're doing it late.
Yeah, I think they'll be able to push Indiana around as well there, especially early at home. Last night we saw the Memphis Grizzlies look to take 2 in a row against a jokerless Nuggets team, and boy, that didn't work out. In fact, they looked absolutely
what did I tell you last night?
Terrible.
Took the Nuggets plus the
Terrible
points
did they
last
look.
night. Yeah.
Oh, but if the Sixers are ever going to win a game, this is probably the game they need to win after Embiid being called out. Looks like him and Paul George are a go. Is it Sixers? Because the market is all Sixers.
Well, look, it's a game if you're willing to get involved in, right? You are playing on the fact that Joel Embiid got his head out of his 4th point of contact and decided to show up and be the MVP that he is, and the Sixers are going to roll this team, right? Because I think there's only 2 outcomes. Sixers win big, or Memphis wins close, right? Like, those are the 2 outcomes I see here. The Sixers should have a little extra fight, right? Like, that's what they should have and show themselves out pretty well tonight.
Yeah, no Zach Edey, no Marcus Smart. They're a mess, Memphis. All right, we got more Game Time Decisions coming up next here on the Grid.
It's a new era in CFP to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was trying, but he had that program was already going there.
Only on SportsGrid.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
The 2 guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
When you look at Marcus Johnson, when you look at Nikola Jokic, these aren't guys that are big, super athletic, dunking and jumping over people. These are just guys that are clean, skilled footwork, and do things below the rim that make the everyday guy look like it'd be like, I can do that. But you can't, and neither can I.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Mark Zinno as we get ready for Week 12 of the NFL season. Good one, too. I'm kidding when I say good. Pittsburgh taking on the Browns here. Short week for Pittsburgh, coming off a drubbing there of the Baltimore Ravens. The Browns are, well, the Browns, let's face it. Jameis Winston Storyline here, though, Zin, is going to be weather, and it not looking good. A lot of wind, a lot of rain, that whole area there. It should be an absolute mess. Probably a whole lot of running, which doesn't bode well, I think, for the Browns. How are you approaching this one?
Yeah, I agree on the weather impacting the game and favoring the Steelers a lot more than it does Cleveland. Just a better running game, better offensive line, better consistency up front. And I think all that favors Pittsburgh here. I mean, everything in my bones is screaming to take Cleveland, especially with them, kind of being in the position that they are from a division standpoint. They may be out of the whole thing right now as far as, playoffs and everything concerned, but still, this is a team right now that just got their butts whooped last week. And now they're coming back on a short week. They're going to play with a certain level of intensity that isn't there. And, the Steelers are in this run here, Joe, of 4 consecutive division games. So they started with the Ravens, they play the Browns, and then they get the Bengals, and then they get the Browns again. I mean, this is a murderous row here for the Steelers going forward. So they'll get out of here with any win possible. And I think, the Browns plus, more than a field goal here feels like the margin where the Steelers end up winning this thing by 3.
Yeah. I'm going to go with the under because I don't know if this game gets to 30 points, if the weather's going to be what we think it's going to be. I think the team total, too, 16.5 for the Browns. I'd like to know how that's going to work out for him in this one here. And Jameis will somehow figure out how to throw an interception, I'm sure. That's usually what he does there. There are some other big
Russell Wilson threw last week, Joe. Can't be any worse than the one that Russell Wilson threw on Sunday.
Solid point. I don't know how you win a game without scoring an offensive touchdown, but they've won 2 this year now, Pittsburgh. Twice. Like, come on. Really, Pittsburgh? My goodness. Another interesting one, too, is going to be Sunday night, which I find fascinating, is going to be this Eagles-Rams game. The Eagles... boy, they're rolling. What else can you say about them, man? The defense has finally put it together. We saw this game a year ago, and the Eagles, I think, held the ball for nearly 40 minutes and just suffocated the Rams. This ain't the Patriots. I don't know. Is it Eagles laying the 2.5, 3, or what do you think we're going to get here?
I'm still waiting for the Eagles to have this, slight regression back to lunacy that started their season off. Maybe they figured it all out. I don't know. But again, a rash of Giants, Bengals, Jaguars, and Cowboys doesn't exactly make me feel like they are really clicking on all cylinders. Now, give them credit for beating Washington, but they were home. It was a Thursday night game. And, now they got to go on the road cross-country against the Rams team that could pick apart that Eagles secondary. So, yeah, there's a lot to question here in this game. And, it's telling where odds makers are sitting with this line at 3. I'm curious to see if they get off to 3.5 or even go down to 2.5. Kind of tells you, pretty indicative of where the market is going. But I just lean Rams in this spot. I'd like to see more from the Eagles to know that they don't have this stinker game in them. They might be feeling a little bit too much of their oats right now, not having played anybody competent. But this is also a game, I think, where you look to the over, Joe, right? I mean, 48.5. I could see this thing topping 51. 27-24 feels like a really possible final between these two teams here.
Yeah, it's going to depend if that Rams defense can get off the damn field and not allow.
If the Patriots could score 22 on the Rams, the Eagles may have an easy way getting to 30.
Yeah, well, that's very easily, too, with that young defense of the Rams here. But that's going to be like a home game anyway for the Eagles because there are no Rams fans at SoFi Stadium. We all know that. What about the Monday night game? I think this one's interesting, too, with the Ravens and the Chargers. And boy, oh boy, over? I think. Does that make sense?
I mean, I don't know. The Chargers, I still think, are undervalued by odds makers, right? And the Ravens may be a bit overvalued because of their defense. But I'll ask you this question. We'll end on this note. One playoff game right now, who are you picking, Jim Harbaugh or John Harbaugh as your coach?
That's
Jim.
rough.
I go Jim.
That's a rough one. Yep, that is a rough one. Mark Zeno, enjoy the night, brother. We'll talk to you again. Game Time Decisions continues.
it's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was playing! But he had that program was only going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight. Only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun. I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
When you look at Marcus Johnson, when you look at Nikola Jokic, these aren't guys that are big, super athletic, dunking and jumping over people. These are just guys that are clean, skilled footwork, and do things below the rim that make the everyday guy look like it'd be like, I can do that. But you can't, and neither can I.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in here on this Wednesday now, November the 20th. It is week 13 of the college football season. We got a couple of more action games here tonight. And then, of course, it's put up or shut up time here this weekend with a number of teams. Of course, Ohio State will be on everyone's mind, and Indiana should be an interesting one. And two guys that know a little something here about college football stepping in and joining us once again. It is CT Betts in the house, as well as the Wizard, Kenny White in the house here. And gentlemen, welcome in on what should be a fantastic week 13 slate of games. Let's dive into a couple of the games you guys have circled. And CT, let's start right now with Wisconsin, and almost pulled off the upset against Oregon last week. Came up just a little bit short. They got an easier time now, right? Nebraska, or is it?
Well, Joe, I don't know here. I feel like Wisconsin they put their nuts on the table, and they kind of went all in last week, at home, night game versus the Ducks. They had the fake number one team in the country, the Ducks, on the ropes. That's for sure. And it was a great game plan by Luke Fickell. They just couldn't put them away. 13-6 into the fourth quarter, couldn't finish the job. Cornhuskers, you guys know that they're an absolute mess, and they've lost 3 in a row now. And there was a ton of talk about this team and the freshman Dylan Raiola at the start of the year, and now it's kind of been crickets. And who wants to bet on teams that lose every week and quote unquote horrible teams? Well, you guys know me well by now well enough. I do. Sign me right up. I think it's a great buy low spot for the Cornhuskers. All the win has been taken out of the Badgers' sails after blowing that win last week. And Luke Fickell, he fires his longtime friend, offensive coordinator Phil Longo. I think they have a lot of stuff to figure out here, and we'll bank on Matt Rule to get the job done at home, get back on track here, get the win and cover the short number, -2.5 on Nebraska.
All right, waiting for Nebraska to bounce back there and get it done for them. And Kenny, all right, Ohio State taking on Indiana, the game of the week, the game of the century, whatever you want to call it. I guess we're going to learn very quickly whether Indiana is for real or not. But You're taking an interesting approach here. I know a lot of people looking at the under, not you, though.
Yeah, these are two really good offensive teams, Joe, and two great quarterbacks. Really, these guys have put up tremendous numbers. Curtis Rourke and Will Howard, their numbers are very similar. So let me just say, they combined to throw 73% completions. They combined to throw 10 yards a pass. And they've combined for 45 touchdowns, just 9 interceptions. So my total is 60.5. And Indiana loves to play fast. They love to get up and down. Ohio State's offense has always been, Ryan Day has always been very aggressive play calling. It just looks like to me this is and it's a 2-touchdown game by Ohio State. So if you're trailing by 2 touchdowns, Indiana's got to go fast and play. So two really good quarterbacks. I got to go over in this day and age in college football. It's a passing game, and they want to see a high-scoring game. And the weather's going to be great, 45 degrees and very little wind. It's football weather in Columbus.
Yeah, no, it is big-time football weather. And CT, all right, we got a total here in the game. Give me a side here, because it just feels like either Ohio State wins by 30 or they lose outright. So which is it?
Yeah, Joe, I texted you and Kelly on Monday. I said, it's been a cute little story for Cignetti in Indiana, hasn't it? I think their fairy tale dreams come to a little halt on Saturday in Columbus. And IU hasn't played anyone even close to the talent of the Buckeyes this year. And I think the Indiana offense is in for a huge wake-up call when they face the number 2 defense in the country. Look what the Michigan defense held Indiana to 20 points last week in Indiana. Makes you wonder what IU will be able to do against the Buckeyes D. I don't think much. I know for a fact that Ryan Day has had this game circled for a very long time. This is a game where he's not going to want to get in and out with a win and move on to next week. This is a game where, like Kenny said, he wants to make a statement and run them out of the building. IU shouldn't even be in the same conversation as the Buckeyes, in my opinion. They just aren't in the same class. I made this game closer to 20. I think IU gets run out of the shoe. So we'll lay minus 13 here with the Buckeyes to get the job done.
Buckeyes and an over is what we're getting in the game of the week there. Kenny, interesting Conference USA game coming up, I guess, for second place with Liberty taking on Western Kentucky. Feels like a pick'em situation here. And which one are you picking?
Western Kentucky's still fighting for that title, Joe. They could get it, but that's not the team I'm betting on. I'm buying low. That's kind of what I do in sports betting. Buy low as whenever I can. Liberty would have been a 2-touchdown favorite against Western Kentucky before the year started. Liberty was the darling of the Conference USA, but Jamie Chadwell's team has played down to the competition most of the year. They are 7-2 still. They're 4-2 in the conference. All I have to do is win the game, and I think I got the better football team. Those are my favorite type of bets when I'm laying less than a field goal and I've got a team favorite more than a touchdown. So I still think Liberty's the better team, even though they don't have the better record. Let's go Flames.
Still trying to figure out how they lost 12-7 on Saturday there, Kenny. That was a bit of a head-scratcher there with Western Kentucky. But Liberty looking to get bounced back in a buy low spot. I don't know what to do in this one here, CT, because here we go. Colorado, a favorite on the road. Kansas, an underdog. Didn't we just see this last week with Kansas, and that didn't work out all that well for BYU? How does it work out for Colorado?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to work out well for Colorado. But, again, I've been wrong on Colorado, I think, 3 times this year. 0-3. Betting against them, including last week, and Jayhawks flying high, playing some great football right now. Jaden Daniels, he woke up. Looks like he cares. The wideouts have been fantastic. Running game has been great. And yeah, Colorado, they've been fantastic this year. Very impressive. They've drastically improved on defense as well. I think that's the big turnaround for the Buffs and has made them win a lot more football games here. Like I said, I've been wrong on them here. I think the problem, though, with the Buffs is that they fall asleep, okay? They fall asleep at least a quarter a game, and that's going to eventually come back and cost them. And I think it's going to be this weekend, guys. And I know it's not a home game for Kansas. They haven't had a home game on campus all year because They're redoing the stadium, but it's still in Kansas. It's at Arrowhead Field, and I heard Coach Lance this morning on the radio and says, it's very similar to if it was a campus game for the kids. They're staying in the same hotel. It's only a 25-minute hotel ride here. This is a beatable Buffs team here, and I think it's a huge, and I think Kenny would agree with me, coaching advantage for Leopold here over Coach Prime. So we will take the 3 here with the Jayhawks.
Ooh, taking the 3 at the Jayhawks. Yeah, I agree with you. This has been a top 25 team for over a month now. Nobody pays attention to them. I like them at home as well there, CT. Another interesting game that we've got going on here, Kenny, and we'll talk more about it when we get back. But you love your side. I think this is like the second time on this show you are going to be busting out a play on the University of Alabama, Birmingham, and I am all for it here, brother. So we'll do that when we get back, not to mention we also have some action tonight, and I believe both of you guys are invested in the games here tonight. Plus, I want to touch base on Notre Dame taking on Army this week. Beyond that, Notre Dame pretty much can sleepwalk their way into probably a top 10 playoff position there, and they won't have to worry about the old conference game because they don't have one, CT. So we'll talk about that one and see what your guys' thoughts are as Game Time Decisions continues here on the Grid.
It's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was thinking! But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
The 2 guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching!
Why?
Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
When you look at Marcus Johnson, when you look at Nikola Jokic, these aren't guys that are big, super athletic, dunking and jumping over people. These are just guys that are clean, skilled footwork, and do things below the rim that make the everyday guy look like it'd be like, I can do that. But you can't, and neither can I.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. We've got week 13 of the college football season, and it is getting good here as our good friend Chris Thurston, CT Bets, doling out winners each and every week. And, of course, the Wizard, Kenny White, in the house. And, Kenny, it wouldn't be a college football week without you breaking down the University of Alabama, Birmingham, my friend. So break it down for us. Tell us what we're looking at this weekend with them.
Yeah, this is just a really bad football game, one of the ugliest games of the day. But you know what? There's a betting line on it. I'm going to make a line, and we're going to bet it, and I'm on an ugly dog again. UAB is a team that I thought had started to turn the corner and make some headway with a cover against South Florida and then a big beatdown of Tulsa. I bet them against Connecticut, and they led the entire game and give up a touchdown with a minute to go in the game for the Huskies to get the cover and just snatched it from me. And then last week they were in the game, the entire game against Memphis until the fourth quarter, and they give up 28 in the fourth. I think they're playing just much better football. Now, Rice fired their coach, Mike Bloomgren, a couple of games ago, and when that happens, you get that uptick. They beat Navy 24-20, and they did play well against Memphis, losing 27-20, but these teams are so equal in talent, or the lack of talent, they're very equal. I can't believe Rice could be 8.5 over anybody in the country except for Kent State. So give me Birmingham plus the points. I'm willing to take a bad team here plus that at home.
I am willing to bet, CT, that nowhere in the sports television universe will you ever hear anybody break down the University of Alabama, Birmingham quite like the Wizard, Kenny White. You ain't getting that anyplace else but right here on the SportsGrid Network. All right, we got Maction football. You want to talk about bad football? My goodness, Maction football here. Let's break down the first game there, or they're both at 7 o'clock coming up top of the hour. Let's talk Ohio Toledo, CT. Give me a side in this game. It feels like a lot of people looking at Toledo here, but we did see some Ohio money come in. So what are we thinking?
Yeah, I've been friends with Kenny for a lot of years, and he knows these small conferences better than anyone, Joe. He's taught me a lot in the MAC and the small ones, and we'll look at this one tonight. And Toledo, they're probably not the same Toledo that we're used to seeing, Joe. Last year they were a top 20 offense, and now they're looking at one of their worst finishes in a long time on that side of the ball. But on the defensive side of the ball, they've been excellent. They forced 5 turnovers in their win last week against Central Michigan. The weather was supposed to be pretty bad and rainy tonight. It looks like clear skies, which in my opinion favors Toledo at home. Ohio has been turnover prone here, turned it over quite a bit this year. Navarro, the trigger man, he's thrown 8 picks on the year. Ohio loses their games on the road, 2-3 on the road this year. Toledo only lost 3 times this year, and at home they've lost once to a tough Bowling Green team. I made Toledo a little bigger a fave here. It looks like the Westgate went to 1 just now, so we'll lay the short number here on the Rockets to get the job done.
Getting the Rockets done. Kenny, it's funny. The interesting thing about these smaller conferences, Maction and UAB, I believe when you hand the ticket at the window, the money is still green that they hand back to you. Am I correct with that, my friend? That's usually how it works here. And how are you looking at this game tonight from a total perspective with Toledo and Ohio?
Yeah, same color money, and CT's right. I wanted to agree with him earlier that coaching mismatch on Kansas, and I have Toledo a favorite in this game as well. But I'm playing the total under. I'm betting the weather. It's tough to bet the weather. Weathermen are never right guessing the weather. I'm guessing the weather here. 25 to 35 mile an hour winds tonight at the Glass Bowl, and it's going to be sideline to sideline, which makes it awfully difficult to pass. When the wind's end zone to end zone, hey, one team can move the ball and the other team really struggles. But when it's sideline to sideline, quarterbacks struggle to throw. Coaches got to get conservative, and the clock's going to run. This game's going to go under the total. Plus, it's a big game. These two teams do not like each other. The last time they played in good conditions was in the MAC Conference Championship game, and Toledo won 17-3.
They always win at home, don't they, Toledo? Kenny, isn't this rivalry? It's always Toledo at home. That's always the easy bet, right?
Toledo's been pretty good, in this rivalry. The last time they played was in Detroit. The year before that, it was in Ohio, and Toledo won that game.
Yep. This is going to be the two teams that don't like one another. It's worth the price of admission tonight in that one coming up here at the top of the hour. And Kenny, what about the next one here? Eastern Michigan taking on Buffalo here tonight. You were talking about it earlier. Are we dealing with more weather issues in this game?
Yeah, there's more. Wind's going to be blowing heavy in this one, too, sideline to sideline, 20, 25 miles an hour. So it will affect scoring as well. But I like Eastern Michigan here, and I'm playing kind of, I'm playing a guessing game that I hope I'm right. Last week, Buffalo beat Ball State. Now, their head coach, Pete Lembo, was fired from Ball State after he coached there for 5 years. I got a feeling that team was fired up to go win that game. They had to come from behind, score a late touchdown to tie it, and then win it in overtime to get their 6th win, and they celebrated like they won the Super Bowl. They are going bowling, and now they're playing Eastern Michigan, who's got 5 wins. One more win, they go bowling. So the team with the focus this week has been Eastern Michigan, and we're just laying 1.
Yeah, and they have always been money, especially as a dog over the years. 7-3 against the number so far this year. They have been money. All right, a quick NFL game, CT, because nobody knows it better than you. Which one of them are you looking at this week in the Week 12 slate of the NFL?
Yeah, I like the Dolphins this week here as they go into the Patriots have to go down to Miami. They struggle every year down there. I'm always on the Fins in this game, and ever since they got Tua back, they've been one to reckon with here, winning some games, and the defense have been a lot better, Joe. I don't think they have a problem covering this number.
No, but Dolphins, nobody punches down better than the Dolphins, and that's exactly what they're doing this weekend. Chris Starston, the Wizard, Kenny White, great luck with those games here, guys. We'll be back. Game Time Decisions continues here on the Grid.
It's a new era in CFP to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was thinking, but he had that program was only going there.
Only on SportsGrid.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
When you look at Marcus Johnson, when you look at Nikola Jokic, these aren't guys that are big, super athletic, dunking and jumping over people. These are just guys that are clean, skilled footwork, and do things below the rim that make the everyday guy look like it'd be like, I can do that. But you can't, and neither can I.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
The question is, can they stop this Toledo team from running on them? That's where this game is going to be decided, on the ground. We got two guys, both Chris and Kenny, like Toledo to be able to win this matchup head-to-head at home. I, too, agree with Kenny on the under in this one. We're starting to see 46 and a halves for Ohio and Toledo. And then get ready for Eastern Michigan taking on Buffalo. As Kenny pointed out, Buffalo 6-4 already. They won a game last week in overtime at home versus Ball State, 51-48. And why is that important? Well, because Buffalo, for the first time in a long time, became bowl eligible with their 6th win. Eastern Michigan sitting at 5-5. Yeah, no. They need a win here in order to be able to make sure they get that all-important bowl game. They'll be at home here. They are 7-3 on the season, but again, cold, rain, gusty winds, all in the forecast here tonight. Expect a whole lot of running, I would say, in this game too. Total also coming crashing down a little bit, but that one was 56 and a half, so don't be shocked if it stays woefully under that number given those conditions. So you got some action football here tonight. Of course, we're going to get ready for the NBA slate, a big NBA slate of games here tonight, not to mention plenty of college basketball, not just tonight, but of course, we've got that next round of tournaments, neutral site tournaments happening, including the Bahamas Classic, which will kick off, the Charleston Classic, which will kick off tomorrow. And you got to love these because it's kind of teams' last opportunities to test their will against some of the better competition in other conferences that they won't see likely until March when the madness begins. So it's a pretty good litmus test on this third Wednesday and what will be the third Thursday of the college basketball season. We do have 37 games here tonight. Neutral site games, though, in Birmingham, in fact, with Illinois and Alabama, which will be the big game here tonight that everyone is going to be focusing on as Alabama, well, it didn't work out all that well last game. However, Illinois here, not exactly the same team that they were a year ago. The money keeps flowing in on Alabama here tonight, and it's no wonder. Alabama in a neutral site game, again, in Birmingham. It's going to be pretty much a home contest for them, but they are going to look forward to righting the ship, if you will, a little bit and get back in the win column to get it done here tonight. Should be a fun one, though. If you haven't had a chance to check out either of these teams, this is a good opportunity for you to do so. And also, if you haven't had a chance to check out this Rutgers team, well, you might want to, lay the 19 and a half, 20 points. I am fairly certain they are going to steamroll Merrimack tonight. And that 20 points will be no issue for them to be able to cover here. Merrimack is not stopping this Rutgers team. That also should be a good one to get involved with. We have much more, though. Another hour of Game Time Decisions continues here on the Grid.
It's a new era in CFP to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was thinking! But he had that program was only going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun. I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why?
Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
When you look at Marcus Johnson, when you look at Nikola Jokic, these aren't guys that are big, super athletic, dunking and jumping over people. These are just guys that are clean, skilled footwork, and do things below the rim that make the everyday guy look like it'd be like, I can do that. But you can't, and neither can I.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in another hour of Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. I'm Joe Raineri. Appreciate you stopping by here on this 20th of November. Kind of hard to believe, but here it is. Time is flying right now as we enter week 13 of the college football season and, of course, week 12 of the NFL season. It's kind of put up or shut up time for a lot of teams, especially in the NFL, which I find it fascinating here in the NFL that you have a team like the Miami Heat, for instance, who finally seem to have put it together a little bit. They have an opportunity now as they look at the standings. And if you look at the wild card race for the AFC. I mean, here's Miami sitting with 5 wins, or we're hoping to get to 5 wins here with this against the New England Patriots this week. Given what their schedule is, I mean, when you look at it, they got 2 more games remaining against the Jets. They're going to have the Cleveland Browns, who in all likelihood will be tanking by the time they end up playing them. And then they got this game against the Patriots. So all of a sudden, while it looked dire for the Miami Heat, here we are in the Miami Dolphins, rather. It looks bad for the Miami Heat, too, as well, but that's a different story. But the Miami Dolphins are very much alive for a wild card berth in what is a very mediocre at best AFC race here, where they could finish 9-8, they could finish 10-7, and still get themselves into the playoffs. And quite honestly, at that point, that's all you want to do. Just get into the playoffs and let everything else handle itself there. While they'll have an opportunity at home to handle business like they did last week against the Raiders, they'll have an opportunity this week to handle business against the lowly Patriots. And I like Drake May. I think they hit a home run with him, but the reality is this is not a team that just gave up at home. They gave up 4 touchdowns to Matt Stafford. What do you think Tua, who is now 6-0, I believe, against the against this New England team over the last 4 years? I don't see Miami losing this game. They go to 5-6. And they are still very much in the conversation for a wild card spot and an opportunity for the postseason. So don't sleep on them. Also, I would not necessarily anticipate the Detroit Lions continuing to drop 50 points on everybody they play. There is, at some point, going to be a little bit of some regression here, although I know a lot of people that seem to think that Jared Goff, even after throwing 5 interceptions against the Houston Texans a couple of weeks back there in prime time. They ended up winning that game. Now they're going to be taking on Indiana, the Indianapolis Colts here, who are also very much in the conversation for a wild card. This is another one of those NFC versus AFC matchups in Week 12 where this game means a whole heck of a lot more to Indy than it does Detroit. But Detroit continuing to steamroll teams and people continuing, I know, even today to bet Jared Goff for an MVP and the number is kind of crazy. I mean, we're seeing that number at 7-1, 8-1 right now. Obviously, Josh Allen is the favorite. Lamar Jackson is a close second. But if Jared Goff continues putting up the kind of numbers and continues to throw, 3 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns a game, the numbers are going to be so ridiculous at the end when it's all said and done that he could very well be a decent price right now at 7-8-1 to go ahead and place a bet on it. So I wouldn't sleep on Jared Goff for the MVP. I've seen this Josh Allen before. Looks great. And then there's a 2 or 3 week period where a slate of games where all of a sudden it's not great. We've seen Lamar Jackson have that game already last week against Pittsburgh. I mean, he looked absolutely terrible. Also, Jared Goff throwing 5 interceptions in a game. It's great that you won it, but you can't throw 5 interceptions in a game and think that you're going to be at the top of the board when it comes to discussing MVP. The thing about Josh Allen is the media is telling you they want to give him this award. Everybody, the narrative is, and the headlines in the media have been, this is his year. Can he get past Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs? Everybody had them winning the game against Kansas City. It's Josh Allen. They want to give him this MVP award. The problem is he's yet to have that one game, and they're all going to have them. He's yet to have that one game where he allows guys like Lamar and Jared Goff back into the conversation. But at 8-1, 7-1, 8-1 with Jared Goff, looking at the schedule coming up for them, my goodness. The fact that he doesn't have another outdoor game for a couple of weeks, and he's got to go to, Northern California to take on the 49ers next month. I think they got Pittsburgh at some point. But other than that, Jared Goff has got all his games indoors where he'll be able to rack up a ton of stats. And when you can drop 40, 50 points on the teams you're better than every time you do it, and it does appear that Dan Campbell very much interested in embarrassing teams this year that are no good. Boy, oh boy, maybe Jared Goff can get a little bit of love here as we enter December and get the topic of conversation where maybe, just maybe, you're holding a 7-8-1 ticket for him to MVP. You're going to look like a genius come December. So this is the time of year where teams got to put up a shut up here. Everyone's had to deal with injuries. You got a 49er team sitting 5-5. No excuses here. They are entering a game this week in which they are still very much banged up here. But you can't lose to Seattle the way you lost to Seattle. You've got to man up and you got to get it done. Will they, though? I mean, at some point you can make the argument that here we are heading into Week 12 of the NFL season. You have had success against Green Bay, in Green Bay before. Green Bay and Jordan Love didn't look all that impressive last week. They won the game, but it certainly wasn't because of Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love. They won the game mostly because Chicago figured out another way to lose a game by not being able to, get maybe 2 or 3 more yards instead of just wasting the clock and letting Cairo Santos doink the game-winning field goal as time expired. But if you're the 49ers, man, you got to figure it out because Christian McCaffrey's not going to save you. 5-5 heading into Week 12. Maybe, just maybe, you are what your record says you are. Maybe you're just a mediocre football team this year. because their red zone offense, for the weapons they have had, my goodness. Not to mention the 49ers are one of the worst fourth quarter teams in the NFL this year, and the injuries keep piling up, including Nick Bosa, who may not go in this game against the Green Bay Packers. So keep an eye on the 49ers this week. It could get uglier before it ever gets better. We'll have more on that as Game Time Decisions continues on the grid.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts, so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in the set than I do for this year. Brady, I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all week long. What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take, hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network on this 20th of November. We got a Wednesday slate across the board. Turning out to be a pretty good slate of games, especially in the NBA here tonight. A lot of situational opportunities, teams playing the second of a back-to-back here. Of course, we saw the Cavs last night lose their first game to the Celtics. There is no doubt Adam Kaufman was celebrating that victory. Although didn't get the cover, they certainly handled their business, the Celtics, and got the win. But now, Adam, here we are, right? The Cavs have an opportunity to bounce back at home against the Pelicans team who's, let's face it, just not going to score 100 points. Are you confident after what you saw last night that the Cavs will beat them by more than 2 touchdowns in this one?
Well, listen, if we're going to sit here and say the Celtics didn't get the cover yesterday, yeah, mathematically that's true. It was a 3-point win, a 4.5-point spread. But let's not pretend that the difference wasn't a bucket scored literally as time expired off a rebound. Dude just flipped it off the glass, and I'm watching the broadcast, and I hear the Celtics broadcaster say, that was purely cosmetic. And I texted him immediately. There was nothing cosmetic about that bucket, I assure you, for those of us that were on the -4.5. My God, that was annoying. But yeah, look, this is an interesting, really, really interesting spot for the Cleveland Cavaliers tonight. And I'm sure, we'll flash all the specifics again about this game. And that, as you said, they're favored by basically 2 touchdowns. And you got an interesting total here. There you go. But really what it comes down to is who's going to play? I mean, the injury situation in this game is absolutely absurd. Let me run down the list for you here. The Pelicans, they are missing Zion Williamson, Brandon Ingram, DeJounte Murray, obviously, CJ McCollum, obviously, Herb Brooks, Trey Murphy is not going to play either, Jordan Hawkins, Jose Alvarado, they are all out for New Orleans. This is basically a G League team that is going to be playing in this one right now. And on top of that, you have on the Cleveland side, so there is no Darius Garland, obviously. There is no Max Strus. Karis LeVert is out. Dean Wade is out. Isaac Okoro is out. Sam Mills is going to get some rest as well. It's a G League team for the Pelicans, and it's Donovan Mitchell, Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, and, you and me out there for Cleveland. People are hopping all over Craig Porter props, points plus assists. Right as I'm coming on, even I'm getting alerts to my phone. Craig Porter plus, over 14.5 points plus assists. Take his alt, 7 plus assists, 10 plus assists. If this thing gets incredibly ugly, and people are hopping on the Ty Jerome points overs as well, 20 plus, 25 plus. If this thing gets out of hand in the opening half, you don't think third game in 4 nights, coming off the emotional letdown last night, first loss of the season, the Cavs aren't going to go out of their way to get a little rest time for Mitchell, for Mobley, for Allen? This is going to be a scrubs game, and that becomes an enticing spot to invest, obviously, pregame in some of these lesser names. No disrespect intended to the likes of Porter and Jerome and on, but these dudes could get some serious run at some very modest props come the second half, and so that is what I am paying close attention to, is where I am in the process of investing. I keep breaking eye contact with you and my camera here, looking down at my phone, watching these numbers move. Porter points plus assists as I was coming on was 13.5. It moved up to even money at 14.5. I had to quick pull a Cam Stewart and punch to get the number in, just so it doesn't balloon any further.
It just feels like this is another one of these games, much like last night. All you had to do was wait the first 6 minutes of the first quarter. The Celtics got out to a big lead. You could have hopped on the Cavs there. We got them last night at 10.5. Just wait in this game. Maybe New Orleans comes out and all of a sudden, instead of -14, you can get it into single digits, and then you feel a little bit more comfortable. So I don't know that there's a reason to jump into it pre-flop, but I can tell you this, everyone's jumping on the under. It opened up 221.5 down to 217.5, and I don't hate that either, because this could be one of those patented Cavs 101 to 85 kind of victories here, because both of these teams have got it going in the wrong direction. The Knicks, I don't know why the market hates the Knicks tonight, but there's a lot of money coming in on Phoenix. 5.5 is an open. I'm seeing 4.5 now. What am I missing in this with this Phoenix team?
I was hoping you were going to tell me, man. I don't know. I invested in the Knicks when it was sitting at 5.5 last night. I saw it move to 6 at some places, and like you said, the money came in the other way, and it dropped that line down considerably. It's not like the Phoenix Suns overnight have gotten healthier. Kevin Durant's not playing. Bradley Beal's not playing. Nurkic is going to play, so I guess that was baked into the original line, thinking maybe he wouldn't. But, Devin Booker isn't going to do it alone, right? Unless we see one of those vintage 45, 50-point Booker nights, which, you're not really seeing so far this year. Hell, last time out, did he even crack 15 points in that last game? He has been incredibly inconsistent shooting the ball so far this year and giving you any sort of dependability. Should he go over on his points? Of course he should. He's the guy. He's the option. But, it's not a comfortable bet for me. The Knicks, meanwhile, come in with at least, I know they're not completely healthy, but all the guys who have been available are available. Brunson, Towns in particular. Towns has been incredible of late, both rebounding and in terms of scoring the basketball. I would look at his points plus rebounds number in addition to, betting the spread. I am on the Knicks. If you want to show the Sun, I'm not advising this, but if you want to, I guess, devil's advocate this thing and show the Suns a little bit of love and invest in them first half, plus 3 or 2.5, whatever it sits at, do that. And then Knicks full game, I could get behind that. But I think the Knicks win this thing. I don't know what I'm missing here.
I'm just glad that I got it at a better number because I don't get it. I think the Knicks are in a good spot here tonight. Interesting. Couple other games we'll touch base on with you, Adam, when we get back. I want to get your thoughts on this Trailblazers who all of a sudden are winning games against OKC. We'll do that next here on Game Time Decisions.
It's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was thinking, but he had that program was already going there.
Only on SportsGrid.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why?
Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
When you look at Marcus Johnson, when you look at Nikola Jokic, these aren't guys that are big, super athletic, dunking and jumping over people. These are just guys that are clean, skilled footwork, and do things below the rim that make the everyday guy look like it'd be like, I can do that. But you can't, and neither can I.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Adam Kaufman as getting ready for a big night in the association. A couple other games we wanted to touch base on include the Oklahoma City Thunder at home, welcoming in the suddenly red-hot Portland Trailblazers, who have won 3 straight. And if we're being honest here, Adam, this might be the best this Portland team has looked in 5 years. I mean, no joke. It looks like they're finally starting to figure it out. The young guys, the youth here, it's not like they're short of talent, but this is a different animal that they've got to go into here in OKC. Are we laying it with OKC, or do we think there's any value in taking the points with Portland?
So I took the points last night when it was sitting at 14.5. Obviously, we don't have that same number now. It's come down to, we're looking at 12 right there on the screen. That's not quite as enticing. That being said, yeah, I probably still, would lay it just because, again, it's a back-to-back. The travel element of it, OKC being, playing late into the night last night, and then having to, fly from San Antonio to, I can't believe they lost that game, and that was painful for me. It sunk a big parlay that I had going that would have been a nice payday. That was a bummer. I had OKC just on the money line, never mind the big cover, and they couldn't get the job done with no Wemby on the other side. So I think there's an element of them coming out a little bit ticked off after that. But again, having to travel from Texas, go back home to OKC. You do have a Portland team that is very depleted. There's no Anthony Simons. He's been ruled out. No Ayton. He has been ruled out. And so Thunder are coming into it with most of their key guys, like Isaiah Joe is not playing. Big deal. And so I wouldn't be at all surprised if the Thunder do get the cover. That's, again, I got the Blazers 14.5 and a small play. I would be comfortable, as I noted, with, still taking the number now, just presuming that maybe fatigue and whatnot come into play and the Blazers don't win the game but have a knack of keeping it close. But this is a weird spot, just because I would feel that much better about it if the Thunder had found a way with that late rally to pull it out last night. But because they didn't, I think there's that emotional kind of narrative street element to it where they come out and just don't want to drop back to back and want to really make a statement with this.
Yeah, probably, a couple of back-to-back losses now for OKC, Dallas, and you mentioned it, San Antonio last night. They have this game at home. Then they got to go on a crazy West Coast road trip. So, you want to win the games you can win, and they should be able to win this one here tonight. But winning and covering are two totally different animals. We did just learn here, and it makes sense, but they've been getting money all day long, and that makes sense as well, as the Sixers are headed on the road, taking on the Memphis Grizzlies. And we just learned that, in fact, Maxey will give it a go here tonight. How much, we don't know, but it's certainly looking like maybe the first time that we get the big three of Philly out on the court at this same time. All the money has been Philadelphia all day long. This thing's ballooned up to, 4.5 points here. Adam, how are you approaching this against a depleted Memphis team?
It's very depleted. Marcus Smart's not playing. Vince Williams isn't playing. John Konchar's not playing. Like you said, Maxey is going to play, although let's take that with a grain of salt because you had, head coach Nick Nurse said before the game, and this was the whole, if Maxey plays, and we know he's going to play, but he said if Maxey plays, he's going to have a, quote, pretty short minutes restriction. What in the hell does that mean? I have no idea. Right. And so is he limited to 20 minutes, 25 minutes, less than that? I don't know what to make of it. Embiid's going to be out there. He hasn't looked right since coming back from his injury. If you want to take Philadelphia in this situation, I get it. This is just a team, though, that has been imploding of late. Not one. I just wanted to double check the spread. Yeah, it was sitting at 4 just a little while ago. I don't want to go really near Philly in general. And obviously with all the injuries, not like, you're not going to have the most important players, Morant, Bane, these guys, they're going to be out there for Memphis. But I just don't want to touch this game. I really don't. There isn't enough conviction that I can sort of summon up inside myself to say, yeah, I trust the Sixers. How could anybody trust the Sixers? And the Grizzlies, they're too banged up to back too.
It should be interesting. We'll learn a little something about him tonight. Adam, always a pleasure, brother. Game Time Decisions returns after this.
It's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was playing! But he had that program was only going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight. Only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun. I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why?
Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
When you look at Marcus Johnson, when you look at Nikola Jokic, these aren't guys that are big, super athletic, dunking and jumping over people. These are just guys that are clean, skilled footwork, and do things below the rim that make the everyday guy look like it'd be like, I can do that. But you can't, and neither can I.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. I'm Joe Raineri. Appreciate you stopping by as we get ready for a loaded slate here. NFL action, college football action, college basketball, NBA. But let us not forget, we got one of the last of the season on the PGA Tour, one of the final cards of the year here, and nobody better to talk about it than our good friend Brady Cannon, who I'm going to guess might be familiar with Sea Island, Georgia. I'm going to throw that out there. That'll be the final event, the RSM Classic here. So then we got a little reprieve, and then we kick it back up, of course, starting in 2025. But talk to me here. You got the hat. I know you've played this course. You're very familiar with it, which means you have a pretty good idea on who, in all likelihood, we should be betting on this week. What do we need to know?
Yeah, it's a beautiful property. It's right there, seaside, the Sea Island Resort. A ton of pros live down in this area. A ton of pros practice at the resort. Davis Love is a part owner. He really created this environment. A lot of guys, of course, graduates of Georgia Tech and Georgia and, all those schools in the area. Half the field is extremely familiar with this golf course. And accuracy off the tee trumps driving distance. The fairways are pretty wide, but there's a lot of water, this intercoastal water that runs throughout the property you have to be wary of. So driving accuracy is a key stat. You don't have to be long. It's a short course. It's only about 7,000 yards. I'm talking about the Seaside course. They actually play two, kind of like Torrey Pines, where they play the north and the south on Thursday and Friday, and then they just continue on with the south throughout the weekend. That's what they do here, where the Seaside will get 3 of the 4 rounds, 1 round on the Plantation. But they're pretty similar. Fazio design, he renovated the course a while back. Big greens. If the wind doesn't blow, it turns into a birdie fest. And that's what we saw Ludwig Åberg do to the course last year when he got to 29 under. Now, the wind is supposed to blow pretty good on Thursday, 15 to 18 miles an hour, maybe some 20-mile-an-hour gusts. In that neighborhood on Friday as well. I don't think you're going to have a draw bias. I don't think there's an advantage for any one player or the other here. I think everybody's going to face some wind throughout those first 2 days. And then it dies down over the weekend to less than 10 miles an hour. So you're probably going to see some scoring here. Joe, I know the winning score proposition put up at the Superbook here in Las Vegas was 20.5 under par. And that seems about right to me.
That's correct. Well, there are. I mean, you mentioned it. Aberg, who is the defending champ in this one, but he hasn't played, I think, since what, the Tour Championship? Didn't he have surgery or something on his knee? And this will be his first action. And you mentioned a bunch of guys live at St. Simon's Island, which is, they're all very familiar with this. So how do you narrow the field down here?
Yeah, I think it used to be an advantage when you had guys that lived down there, but now so many of them do. I mean, there's probably 50 guys that are extremely familiar with this golf course, either using the practice facility on a regular basis or living in the area or have attended college, university in the area and played this course a number of times. So, I look for these shorter knocker plotter guys that have a really good short game, and that doesn't exactly fit Ludwig Oberg. I mean, he's a powerhouse, but he's got great touch around the greens with the putter as well. You're right, though. He was last seen at the Tour Championship, which ended September 1st. He had surgery on the knee, a torn meniscus, not too long after that. He played all summer long with kind of that nagging knee. Didn't bother him too much, apparently, but he did have it cleaned up surgically and now is back in action. So I don't really want to mess with him, his first competitive round since the surgery. And I know he's taken a lot of action. He is number 1 in ticket count at BetMGM. He's number 2 in handle, and he's their second biggest liability. So, hey, I'm a fan of Oberg as well, but I'm not going to be on him this week. I started with Seamus Power, the Irishman who lives here in Las Vegas, actually. And he has just absolutely made a living on these shorter coastal courses. He's done very well in Hawaii at the Sony Open, done well at Harbor Town up the road in South Carolina. He won at Port Royal in Bermuda, where we were last week, which is a very similar short coastal design. So I started with him at 34-1, and then Justin Lauer at 50-1. I don't know if you saw Lauer a few weeks back in Mexico, but he got emotional on the podium. They asked him about, getting close to getting a victory, and he got upset. He's like, the PGA Tour is making it so hard on us journeyman guys, and that seemed to inspire him. He ended up finishing runner-up that week. He was 5th last week, and I'm going to continue to ride that hot hand with him at 50-1. His game fits the place, great short game, shorter hitter. And then I went to the old guard who does happen to live here and went to Georgia Tech, and that's Matt Kuchar at 60-1. We know he's a perfect fit for this type of course. He's won the Sony. He's won at Harbor Town, and like I say, he lives here. He knows this place like the back of his hand. And then I did it, Joe. One more time, the final event before, who's deciding with tour cards and everything. Daniel Berger, go Seminoles, baby. I had to go with Berger. He's sitting on the outside looking in, 127th, and you got to get to 125. Wow. And I'm not basing my handicap on a guy being able to flip the switch and all of a sudden start to play better. But I do believe Daniel Berger is a better player, I think he'll find his way into the 125. And he's also, he's won at Colonial. He's won at Pebble Beach. He's won twice at TPC Southwind. He's won on all these types of golf courses. Being a Florida guy, he loves the Bermuda grass surface. So I think Daniel Berger is going to show up this week. And then finally, a long bomb at 75-1 on Michael Kim, who's been in real good form. His last 3 starts, he's finished 5th, 30th, and then 12th last week at the Bermuda. So I like his chances to show up here as well.
Listen, any one of those guys, those are all great prices to be able to cash in this final event of the PGA year. And it should be fun to kick it back up in January. But we also have some NFL Week 12 action kicking off tomorrow night with the Browns taking on the Steelers. But you focused in on a game here that I already bet the under, because I'm willing to bet that the Giants aren't going to score a lot of points against Tampa. Both teams coming off a bye that usually leads to an under, but it also leads me to believe that the entire world is going to be on the Tampa Bay Bucks. Are you on the Tampa Bay Bucks?
No, I'm going to go the other way, and I think you're right. I think the immediate reaction would be to take the Buccaneers off of a bye week, and I understand a little bit of a struggle going into that bye week with a couple of losses, although they were extremely competitive in both of those games before the bye week. but the reaction to the Giants making the change at quarterback. And that'll probably have people, leaning towards Tampa Bay, who's been obviously the much more impressive team this season. I actually made the line 6.5 and it opened up 5.5, but I'm going to go against my number because I think the new quarterback theory here, where the team is going to show up and play inspired football immediately after that change. We saw it happen with New Orleans Saints and the change to their head coach. We saw it happen with the Carolina Panthers earlier this year when they benched Bryce Young. Andy Dalton comes in, they go out on the road and they beat the Raiders. The rest of the team, they kind of want to rally together and say, hey, guys, let's show everybody that it wasn't our fault. They got rid of the problem in the quarterback, the coach, whoever it is. A team will typically respond when you make a major change like that immediately following that change. And I think you'll have that effect for the New York Giants here on Sunday. So I'll take the 5.5, even though it doesn't match the number I made. I think 5.5 is enough. I wouldn't be surprised if they won the game outright.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, Brady. They got there's a lot of teams here like Tampa, like the Dolphins, that are kind of just sitting below 500, but are very much alive for the postseason. You're running out of time. You got to win some games. But I'm with you. Wind in MetLife, I'm not sure they win a whole lot of those games. So, Brady, enjoy it, brother. Appreciate it as always. Game Time Decisions continues here on the Grid.
It's a new era in CFP to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of a week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was thinking! But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching!
Why?
Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
When you look at Marcus Johnson, when you look at Nikola Jokic, these aren't guys that are big, super athletic, dunking and jumping over people. These are just guys that are clean, skilled footwork, and do things below the rim that make the everyday guy look like it'd be like, I can do that. But you can't, and neither can I.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. What a night we have here in the sports landscape. Plenty of college basketball going on, plenty of NBA action. A couple of games underway right now, including the Cleveland Cavaliers, no longer undefeated, taking on the G League Pelicans. They're already off and running in that game. And the good news is we got Maction football, some NHL, and in-game live coming up here at the top of the hour. They'll have you covered with all of it, and Scotty Wetzel will be at the helm and carrying you guys through these games. And it's a great slate of games here tonight, Scotty, across the board. especially in the NBA and those Cavs. Everyone expecting the wheels to fall off because they lost to the Celtics. I don't know about. I'm pretty sure you and I could probably keep it close with the New Orleans Pelicans. Something tells me the Cavs are not going to hear any of that. Feels like it's got blowout written all over it. How did you approach this one?
Yeah, listen, the wheels could fall off Cleveland, and their car would still go further and faster than the New Orleans Pelicans car. That's how bad they are.
Yep.
They lost by 40 last night in Dallas, 41, I think it was, 41, 42, whatever it was, 40-plus in Dallas. So, I mean, there's no reason. I get it, let down, you win 15 in a row. That's the general thing, right? Whether it's a winning or a losing streak, once you break the streak, you always, bet on whatever happened to break the streak, but not with me, Joe. New Orleans, I told you last night, the Pelicans have still yet to cover a game on the road this season. Now 0-7 against the spread. Forget about winning. We know they're not going to do that. They're only 4-11 overall against the spread. Cleveland, meanwhile, best spread team in the NBA at 12-4. Got the old backdoor cover last night. So, listen, I know you need to win by a lot, but if this Cavaliers team has any heart, and I wonder about that, but I think they come out flying tonight just to extract revenge after losing last night and not just feel sorry for themselves and win by a couple points, but win by 20-plus.
So I got to ask you, the market seems to have loved the Milwaukee Bucks here tonight, and I have no idea why. I mean, they were laying 8.5. They were laying more than that when they played Chicago, a couple of weeks ago, and Chicago beat them by 9. So what am I missing here? What's with the love with the Milwaukee Bucks? They just tipped it off here. It's knotted up at 2 apiece with 9 minutes to go. But did you like Milwaukee tonight?
No, I like the same thing. I like Chicago. Your game just tipped off. Same with the Cleveland game. So you can get these numbers, pretty close to what they are that I'm giving you here. Chicago getting 8.5, 9, maybe by the hook if you can. Get it up to 9. I don't get it. Milwaukee. They struggled overall. They've struggled against the spread naturally. 4-9-1, third worst spread record in the NBA. Meanwhile, head-to-head series, Chicago's 4-1 against the spread. The cities are separated by about an hour and a half drive, depending on traffic. I made it many times when I was living in Chicago, so there's a natural rivalry there. You want to give me almost double digits, against Milwaukee these days? I think it's amazing. The boys in Vegas, it takes them a long time. Boy, they got some stubbornness in them. They really do. It just takes them a long time, Joe, to hop on good teams that you're not expecting to be good and hop off bad teams that you didn't think were going to be bad. And I think Milwaukee falls into that category, getting a big bonus there at 8.5.
Yeah, I agree with you there. No way I can trust this team at this particular point. Houston at home laying a decent number against the Indiana Pacers here. What do we do with this one here? I mean, Houston certainly has been able to handle business at home, but do we like them to win by more than 2 buckets?
Yeah, that's and the line went up to 6.5. I saw it earlier in the day at 6, then they bumped it to 6.5, which, all right, I'm encouraged because that's the way I'm going to go. I'll lay the 6.5, Joe. They've 5-0 at home against Indiana is the Houston Rockets. You mentioned they're very good at home. 5-0 against the spread, home game run. 5-0 against the spread run overall. So they're playing their 10-5 on the season. One of the best spread teams in the NBA. So it's, the teams like this that you got to get used to, laying points. You have to do it. Like Detroit, I think, is another team where you're so used to getting, double digits with some of these teams, but they have improved. This Rockets team has improved. So I'm going to go ahead and lay the 6.5 and hope they get by the Pacers.
Hawks taking on the Golden State Warriors here. It's Atlanta. I automatically bet the over. Are you betting this side? How do you look at this one?
Yeah, we're going to do 2 things, right? Let's start with the over, right? At 239 points, that's a lot of points, right? But, listen, all the trends say over. Series 5-1 over last 6. Both are strong over teams. Golden State 9-4 over, including 7 of their last 8 games have gone past the number. Many of them in this category. Atlanta 11-4 over, best over team in the NBA. So you got to go over. And then I'll take a stab at Golden State laying 8, maybe 7.5. Warriors have beaten the Hawks 10 of their last 11 at home. Many of them by double digits. So give me Golden State minus the 8, maybe 7.5, and then definitely the over 239.
Yeah, I mean, 9-4 against the number, against terrible teams defensively. Atlanta, 27th in points allowed. I'm with you. I think the over, and don't be afraid to lay it with them. And also, what are we looking at here on the ice tonight, Scotty? Some interesting games getting ready to the puck to drop. Dallas taking on San Jose. Also an interesting one, though, but that's a huge number, Scotty. What are we doing here with the Stars?
Yeah, I like 3 games today. We're going to go Dallas, Joe. You have to, right? Who can lay minus
Yeah.
465? That's crazy, right? But I'm going to lay the puck and a half. It's still minus 175, which is still a pretty hefty price, but I'm going to do it. San Jose, 16 points, tied for the second fewest in the league, only ahead of Chicago. Dallas, 10-1 last 11 at home against San Jose, 5-1 last 6 overall against the Sharks. Yeah, they're not going to win, so you just got to keep your fingers crossed that San Jose loses by 2 goals. Got to grab the under 5.5 Nashville, Seattle. Nashville, nice little 9-2 under run on the road. And then we'll take the LA Kings laying $1.50 or so against Buffalo. Buffalo only 2-5 on the road this season. LA, who would have thought this, Joe? 14-5 their last 19 home games, obviously dating back to last year. So they're tough to beat in LA. Give me the Kings.
Yeah, they are. I'll take a stab at the over in that one as well. So plenty of action coming up. And Scotty, we'll hand the reins to you for in-game live. We'll close it out next here on Game Time Decisions.
It's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was playing! But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
We live in a society right now where everybody's a snowflake, everybody's a cupcake, and everybody thinks that nothing is fair. Everything is like, it's not fair. We should have a better chance. We need more. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when you needed to have a perfect goddamn record to win a college football championship. That's the way it was. 11-1, too bad.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
When you look at Marcus Johnson, when you look at Nikola Jokic, these aren't guys that are big, super athletic, dunking and jumping over people. These are just guys that are clean, skilled footwork, and do things below the rim that make the everyday guy look like it'd be like, I can do that. But you can't, and neither can I.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network as we look to close out this edition. Get ready for In-Game Live coming up here in just a few minutes. And, of course, they'll have you covered with everything across the board here in sports. We've got NBA action already underway with the Bucks and the Bulls going at it. 12-11 right now, early scores. The Bucks on top at home. Dame Lillard back in play here, but this line just does not make any sense. Still hovering around the 8.5 mark. Do not trust the Milwaukee Bucks to win by that margin. And, of course, the Cavs, after their first loss of the season on the road last night against the Boston Celtics, they are at home. They are hosting the lowly New Orleans Pelicans, who got absolutely destroyed by Dallas last night. 132-91, I believe, is what it was. Not good at all for the Pelicans, who quite honestly have nobody healthy on that roster, and it shows for sure. But they're giving it a go here. It's 20-14, Cavs in front with about 4.5 minutes to go in the first quarter there. The big news here tonight is the return, it looks like, of Tyrese Maxey. And the first time for the Philadelphia 76ers that in all likelihood we're going to get a chance to see Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid, and Paul George on the court, their big three, for the first time this season. And as they sit there with a 2-11 record, well, it's good, nice to see you guys here, as all three have been hurt for stretches here to start the season. So we've never had a chance to see all three together. The money had come pouring in all day on the Sixers, shooting this thing up to, it was a pick 'em to open. Now we're seeing 4.5s for the Philadelphia 76ers. That game coming up here in just a couple of minutes. And then the story for the Grizzlies is nobody is healthy. It looks like Marcus Smart is now sick. So very few options for the Memphis Grizzlies here tonight, who are on the second of a back-to-back. They were shorthanded last night, but so were the Denver Nuggets, who didn't have the Joker, and they got destroyed by Denver last night, and it did not look pretty at all. Now they've got a very upset and mad 76ers team, and Joel Embiid with no answer for Memphis at all. He should have himself a pretty good night. We're also seeing the Clippers at home as a dog taking on the suddenly resurgent Orlando Magic, who, you know, don't forget, early on in the season, they looked pretty good until, of course, Paolo Banchero went down with the injury, and he's lost for the year, and then they hit the skids. But look at their last couple of games here and what they've managed to do here. Back on November 8th, New Orleans, win. Washington on the 10th, win. 12th, they took on Charlotte, win. Indiana on the 13th, Philadelphia on the 15th, and they just beat Phoenix on the 18th now. So they have quite a winning streak going here, and they are laying points against a Clippers team who has won back-to-back games against Utah and the Golden State Warriors. Now, the interesting thing here is I believe Norm Powell has been ruled out. Ironically enough, I believe it's Norm Powell bobblehead night tonight at the Intuit Dome, the new home of the Los Angeles Clippers. He has been a big part making up the difference here with no Kawhi Leonard available to them. But boy, oh boy, it feels like this is a big ask here. Orlando once again to go on the road and win by margin here. Kind of crazy here, but that's exactly what's happening. We have seen this also. This total might be one of the lowest totals we've seen so far this year, down to 205.5. And that is a pretty low total with two teams that have no interest in running up and down the court in any way, shape, or form. So points might be hard to come by in that one. We also have some college basketball underway here, in which the folks here of In Game Live will take over and let you know what's happening. But the big game of the night is going to be Illinois taking on Alabama, and they will have you covered for the tip in that one. Big games on the West Coast late night as well. So there's a little something for everyone tonight. And In Game Live has got you covered. We'll be back again tomorrow in Game Time Decisions. Enjoy the games. We'll see you again soon.